Dawn did not arrive in Wexford Hollow. It merely seeped in, a protracted, miserable dilution of grey light that struggled against the pervasive dampness of the year 1800. The hollow was an isolated cup in the rolling English hills where the mist gathered thickest, adhering to the stone walls of the Hawthorne farmhouse and compounding the already profound sense of isolation. The air held a permanent chill, a chill that seemed to emanate less from the season and more from the cold core of the lives lived within its walls. The silence inside was not restful. It was a dense, painful quiet, the sound of 3 lives held together by a brittle, collective fear. The air tasted of the ghosts of the night, stale liquor, cold ash from the hearth, and the unremitting, corrosive shame that had become the defining atmosphere of their home. William Hawthorne, the master of the house, was already seated at the rough-hewn kitchen table. His once imposing frame, built for tireless labor, was now slumped and defeated, a colossal, heartbreaking monument to his own self-loathing. He sat hunched in the deepest shadow the meager light could not penetrate, rejecting the day before it had fully begun. His breathing was a slow, wet rasp, the sound of a man drowning in dry air. Thomas, the son, stood rigidly by the window, his gaze fixed on the hazy fields. He was lean, coiled, and utterly watchful, the embodiment of defensive duty. His own life was a painful study in contradiction. He was bound by an unconditional, fiercely protective love for his mother, Elizabeth, and a desperate, agonizing hatred of the ruin his father had become. His entire youth had been spent walking the tightrope between these two consuming forces. He waited for the right moment, the necessary moment, before forcing the first words of the day into the leaden air. "Morning, father," William grunted, a low, guttural vibration that bypassed speech entirely. He made no movement to acknowledge Thomas's presence. The tremor in his hand, resting near a water stain on the table, was a small, visible betrayal of the strong man Thomas remembered only vaguely from his early childhood, a man whose pride was once as immense as the oak in their field. "Morning," William finally mumbled, his voice thick with bile and the dryness of spent despair. He reached blindly for the bread Elizabeth had left out, his grip instantly possessive and destructive, splintering the crust into useless fragments. Another useless day, another dawn to face this pit. Why do we bother, Thomas? There is no promise left in this land. Nothing ever changes here. The thought burned in Thomas's mind, a fierce internal monologue that he had long ago learned to suppress. He knew that confrontation was not just useless, it was dangerous. It only fed the beast of William's self-pity, and the venom would inevitably redirect toward the one person Thomas was sworn to protect. He had to be the wall, the constant, silent shield. Elizabeth Hawthorne moved into the kitchen, the true keeper of the family's shattered integrity. She was composed, her movements quiet and deliberate. She maintained the ritual of the home, the clean apron, the pinned hair, the steady hands, a quiet, stubborn belief in order, even as she lived every day with the agonizing non-belief in her husband's eventual recovery. She was not fragile, she was forged. She placed a simple plate of bread and cheese before William. Her eyes, though tired, were clear, carrying the profound sorrow of a woman who had seen the glorious heights of love and now lived perpetually in its deepest, coldest valley. "Eat something, William," she requested, her voice level and quiet, stripped of any emotion that might provoke him. It was a statement of necessity, nothing more. William's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes fixed on her, suddenly sharp with rage. "Stop hovering, Elizabeth. Stop this pretense of concern," he spat, shoving the plate away violently. The bread skittered across the wood and onto the stone floor. "You do it only to judge me, to remind me of the man I failed to be, the promises I broke. I do not need your damned pity." Elizabeth did not flinch. Her reaction was a slow, agonizing process of control. She simply knelt, slowly and deliberately, retrieving the fallen food, her silence more devastating than any shouted word. She shot Thomas the briefest of glances, the silent shared communication that mandated his stillness, reminding him that her enduring composure was their most potent defense.